Hello and welcome to Michael's Minty Music for today. Today we review JJ Scheff's first album, 2018's Heady, which was released when he was calling himself Reaper, so in some areas it might still be under that artist name. It's really good, although it's a bit short for a full album. This is the track listing, and these are the tracks I added to my playlist, 5 out of 7, so most of them here. This album's really good. Most of the songs are pretty good, and the flow is pretty incredible. The songs pretty much go right into each other, and the album has some interesting in-between tracks like Enter and Theme to keep it moving pretty well. Most of the songs here are super interesting mashup of like sort of techno, harder rock, and a little bit of pop sound, which goes a long way towards making the songs individually distinct and a lot more listenable outside of the context of the album. It does have a bit of an issue where some of the songs here kind of only sound good in the context of the album, which is alright. Most of the songs here, I will say, weren't outstanding on their first listen. They were all still pretty good, and they improve significantly after you've listened to them a few times. So the album is definitely a little short, though. Since 2 of the tracks are shorter than normal songs, there's really only 5 full songs here, which is much more like an EP than a full album. And the total length doesn't even crack 20 minutes, which is too bad. I would have loved to hear some more, although the way the album flows is already so kind of perfected. I can't help but wonder if adding an additional track or 2 would have just ruined it. Terrors is a great closing track, and the sort of first 2, Enter / As You Sow, is a pretty good opener for the style here. In general, it's pretty upbeat, but it never gets super fast. Most of the songs stay at sort of a mid-speed, which some a bit faster and some a bit slower, kind of wiggling around in that range there. Theme is a great slow-down instrumental track in the middle, which helps break up the beginning couple of tracks in the last 2. So overall, I would say this is a really good album. I do wish it just had 1 or 2 more tracks on it, though, and I feel like it could be improved, but still a really good debut. My favorite song here is the second track and pseudo opener, As You Sow. It's one of the more upbeat ones, and it's got a cool synth opening melody, which I really like. So, as the only JJ Scheff album I've heard so far, it takes the only spot in the rankings. We'll see if his second album is better or worse next week. It'll need to be at least pretty good to have a shot at beating Heady, I think. Additionally, this album does not take my top spot from 2018. That stays with George Ezra's Staying at Tamara's, mainly because Heady is more of an EP than an album, and thus it can't really compete at the same level as a full album. Just like how single albums usually have trouble competing against double albums, an album that doesn't even crack 20 minutes has a much more difficult time when compared to a full hour of good music. Also, though, I do really like Staying at Tamara's, and it's probably one of my favorite albums of all time, so I don't really think that JJ could have bumped it out of the top spot with this one. Next up is INXS's second album, 1981's Underneath the Colors. I don't like it as much as their debut, but it's still pretty good. It's definitely a worthy sequel, so stay tuned for that, and as always, stay minty.